a good family also looks and starts to think, it looks hard and says, well, how can I increase my income? How can I, should I take that job at McDonald's, a part-time job, on top of my other 2 jobs? I mean, why doesn't it work the other way? Why doesn't the state do the same thing that a good family does, which is when you've got expenses that you just have to spend, figure out a way to get the money?
The one thing that they do not want up there is revenue sharing. We left $200 million on the table for health and human services. They do not want us to take federal funds because they have strings attached to them. You cannot explain to them that if we do not take that funding, they're not going to send it back in our income tax. They're going to give it to somebody else. And the idea of it is that all of these things, that most of the things that they're cutting out have some sort of federal funding coming to it with matching funds. We used to get revenue sharing before Reagan came into office, but it changed to block grants and federal funding that will be matching funds. But it's hard to explain to them that we could have all of these things that they're cutting out if they just were willing to take the matching funds. But they would like to completely do away with New Hampshire having anything to do with the federal government. They want us to be a state that stands by their own. And if you don't believe me, you look up the bills. They had a bill in to start our own army. So that's what we're dealing with up there.
I don't want to beat this dead horse, but I have a question in the back. It's not that, that we're not like a family that needs to go out and find a part-time job. The problem is New Hampshire is working as a part-time job. We are working as a family where the breadwinner is working 3 days a week, and the boss is saying, you could work 5 days a week if you want to and make more money. But the breadwinner says, no, I'm going to just work 3 days a week because that's all I need to work, and I'm going to tell my family we have to live within our means. We are living below our means in New Hampshire. When you talk about what New Hampshire is doing, living within your means, look at Webster's dictionary. What means says is the definition is within, relative to wealth and resources, is what means is. We are a very wealthy state, one of the top 7. We are living well below our means and our resources. And that's the way, unfortunately, a lot of people want it in the state. Because when you look at the top 20% of the people own 84% of the wealth. And that is why they want to keep it that way. And that number is getting worse every year as we go along. And it'll be the top 20% owning 90% of the wealth and so forth. So, think about that. And the other issue, like Laura was saying, there are other hidden features that we don't even know about yet. There's going to be a budget signed, I think, in Washington this week, finally. That may have a real budget for the rest of the fiscal year, which is cutting, what, 34 billion, 35 billion? 38 out of the budget, plus what they already cut out during the previous continuing resolutions. That will affect what money that may be expected to come to New Hampshire into the block grants and other programs in the state. So not only are we cutting state funds, and are we not taking matching funds and revenue sharing, we are going to be receiving less funds because of the budget reductions that are occurring in Washington that they don't even know about yet. So the surviving programs that we think will survive into July 1 if this budget passes may not survive based on what happens at the federal level. So this is really, the other shoe is yet to fall in terms of what's going to happen with the federal dollars that we have no idea yet. And that's going to be the real fun.
Vice-Mayor Clayburgh is here.
I just have 2 areas that I would like to talk about for a minute. The first is, many of you know I'm the mother of a 22-year-old son with Down syndrome, and of course this budget is significantly going to affect my family. And I think my plan, and I suggest if you want to come with me, I'm trying to make appointments with every senator and all 24 senators. I've already met with Nancy Stiles, who I think, because she's our senator. She's been approachable, and I had a 2-hour meeting with her, and I was encouraged by her support of the developmentally disabled. But I would like to, and I've started to make my phone calls, and it is frustrating. You get answering machines, and my thought was to go up and just walk the corridors. I'd love to take my son with me. I think one of the frustrations I think I'm having is a lot of these people don't know what the DD population is. I think, and Laura told me she would help me get an appointment with Bill O'Brien. I want him to meet my son. And I invite Nancy, if you want to come with me, I invite parents to come with me with their disabled kids. I think they need to meet our kids. I don't think they know them. I don't think they know the challenges that come with that. I think they have to understand how important our budgets are to us. My son has 3 paying jobs. He needs a job coach to be with him, or he's not going to have that job. So if this dramatic cut goes through, I'm going to have to go with him. Fortunately, I'm in a situation where I can go with him. I don't work. But you know what? I bet 2/3 of parents of disabled young adults, I keep saying kids, they work. And they can't quit their jobs, or maybe they will quit their jobs so they can go with their child or their young adult, so they can go to work. My son also has 3 volunteer positions. He needs assistance at those volunteer venues. He wouldn't be allowed to go if he didn't have a job coach with him. So for my family, his life will dramatically change if these job cuts go through. And it's a shame because he's getting a paycheck, he's paying Social Security, he's paying all the taxes that you and I pay. He loves his paycheck. It's a big part of his life. He's so proud of himself. And if you take that all away, you're devastating a life, which you have all been talking about. Look at the mentally ill. You know, these people aren't going to get their medications, they're not going to get their therapies, they're going to end up in jail. Is that going to cost our system more than if they were getting their medications and they were getting their therapies? It just doesn't make sense. So my plan, I mean, what can I do about it as a parent? And what can I do about it as a citizen? And my plan is to stomp into Concord and meet these people and let them meet my son and see if I can change their minds. I don't know.
Thank you for doing that.
Nancy, one of the things that moves me every time I go to Concord is there are many disabled people who come up. But you know, like us, and I'll stand, we become invisible. They become invisible. You've got to make all of us stand up and pay attention. And I don't think that just an appointment with Bill O'Brien is going to do it. I really don't. I think that we need, and I know your son is very capable of being a spokesperson, and so is Lori's. There's nothing that moves people like talking and making them hear. There's nothing like moves people like taking them to WMUR and taking them to be visible. But I just think an appointment with Mr. O'Brien, Speaker O'Brien, is not going to do it by itself because you become insulated. But I applaud you, and I would stand right there with you.
Gentleman in the plaid shirt has had his hand up for all.
Thank you. Yeah, not that I never have anything to say. My name is Mark Trafton. I was born in New Hampshire. I'm educated in New Hampshire. I'd like to make a couple of comments, and one that just came to my mind. Nancy? My sister's name is Nancy. I want to tell you my sister's story. Nancy Hilda Trafton was born in 1965 with Down syndrome. She's a very high-functioning young woman now. I don't know her well. The state of New Hampshire saw to it that she was taken care of. No ifs, ands, or buts. My family was not able to take care of her. Through the Laconia State School and foster care, she is a very productive and happy individual. I hope to go up to the North Country where she lives and see her. I'm not generally very emotional, but you made me feel that way. Because the state of New Hampshire, under people like Walter Peterson in the 1960s, saw human dignity, valued every individual the way Republicans have always said they did, value the individual and his rights and his decency, whether born or unborn. And now we've seen a very large shift in that. And I'd like to first thank Laura Pantelakos for writing the wonderful letter, very detailed. To the Portsmouth Herald, and I hope that that goes around the state too. I took the liberty of linking that in an op-ed piece that I've written to several state newspapers, trying to expose the GOP leadership, and leadership between quotes, for the mishmash of what it appears to be a very vocal group of free staters and tea baggers, or tea partiers. What I'm wondering is, my one question in this, what percentage of this really strident, backward-looking leadership are not the Lee Quants in the world, clearly, but can be exposed for the Tea Partiers and the Free Staters that they are, and not true Republicans? And can a coalition be brought together of Democrats and the moderate Republicans to somehow have a no-confidence vote or something to remove the Speaker? Is that possible? I want to make one last comment, and then I'll shut up, because as my friend Dean knows, I sometimes have too much to say. Bully pulpit, as a high school teacher, sometimes has. If I were a conspiracy theorist, I would believe that this gutting of public education, this gutting of services, would be designed so that we would have a populace so dumbed down that a majority of would continue to support this anti-people, this anti-individual, anti-community agenda that they clearly have, where we are somehow told that we should feel safer because people are packing concealed weapons in the State House, that we have government off our back because we don't know whether the shellfish we eat, where it's raised, and whether it's safe. And I, for one, think that really only a fool could continue to vote these people in with this agenda. And I think that the gutting of public education has something to do with their knowing that an educated populace is their biggest adversary. And I just hope that we can combat that by telling every friend and neighbor, even if you don't think they're on the same side of the fence as you, that this is egregious. And having been brought up in this state where taxpayers put a lot of money into a very good education for me in the Oyster River School District, as it happened to be, why should my children, my grandchildren, your children, grandchildren deserve any less? And I just think this backward motion is just egregious, and we have, if it takes going to the street and sitting in at the State House, it's time to do it. These people have gone over the top.